Hello, everybody. It's a gorgeous day out there. I'll be surprised to see how many people show up. It's gorgeous out, especially here. I don't know about the UP. Is it warming up there? Your snow going away? Well, welcome to Art Wild, and today is Wild Wednesday, and oh my gosh, it's been wild already. Boom, get up, get out, and see what's happening outdoors. So, hello, Jamie. I think I saw my sister on there, Joan, and yeah, it's just been crazy. Of course, when you get warm weather, all the bugs and the bees and the birds and everything are out there and they're doing their thing. Oh, let's see who's out there. Give a shout if you're out there. Those of you that did show up, I appreciate it. And I hope you will get some fun ideas. We've got a holiday weekend coming up. And as we know, some places in Michigan are going to be raring to go. And I think today, and that could be why it's so quiet, is that certain parts of Michigan are going to be opening up for business. The Upper Peninsula and the lower part, Traverse City. So, whoop, I got my Upper Peninsula upside down. Woo! Wait, yeah, Keweenaw. Yep. And Traverse City area. So who knows, people may be driving up north for their long weekend and getting out and about and seeing what the North Woods and the lakes and the rivers all have in store for everybody. Hopefully rest and relaxation. And even though everybody's been cooped up at home, it's getting up to the woods, getting up to the forest, and seeing what is happening up here. So today's Wild Wednesday is going to prep you, for those of you that like to collect wild things. It will prep you for this wild weekend coming up. So while you're out and about and see some cool things that you can add them to your collection. Don't go after, of course, anything living. Nature has a hard enough time as it is. And so if you do find anything lying on the ground or, give it a look. Carry your magnifying glass. If you haven't packed up yet, ready to go. So today, the Bear Girls, the rest of the team, is off building Lisa's gigantical lathe. She just got a big lathe for wood turning in her shop, and it just dwarfs her other one. So we'll be looking forward to all kinds of fun projects that Lisa's going to be whipping out on her new lathe, and you'll be able to put giant logs on there and make some gigantic bowls. So that's a fun thing for today. A little bit of news in the Bear Track studio. Oh, another fun thing that happened this morning. We've got a little bit of hodgepodge news here. This morning, Marie called me and said, hey, do you want to go out? I'm going to take a drive and we're going to go look for birds. So we were headed out and went down some back roads that were really flooded. And if you've heard of the issues and problems with Midland, yeah, we got a lot of rain here, 3 inches or so. So the road out to where we were birding was flooded, and we drove through it, and that was interesting. It wasn't too bad. We had to move a tree out of the road that came down. But the big news is that there was a little bird that we couldn't see Marie hopped out of the car to look for a sedge wren, and before you know it, she was standing by the side of the road, had her tripod set up, and we heard a grunting sound that sounded like a little pig. And it's like, what the heck is that? It's such a deep voice. I had no idea. I didn't know if it was a bittern. And sure enough, little bird came floating out and looked her in the eye. And it was less than robin sized. And it was a Virginia rail. And so that was cool. That was neat to see. I did get to see it as it flew over. I tried to call and see if I could get it to come out while she was had her camera at the side of the road, and so that was really cool to see. It did answer the call. It only did it a couple of times. There were actually, I think, 3 Virginia rails out there. So hey, Marie, just sharing our morning story. So that was a lot of fun to just drive. If you are out and about this weekend, think about going out and watching for wildlife using your car as a blind. So, you know, birds, animals are used to people being in cars. Once you get out, they realize your danger. So we've got a couple of people showing up. And anyway, with the hodgepodge of news, I was just refueling on my coffee. It was an early morning. It was a busy morning, running around looking for birds. So that was great fun. And the past Wild Wednesdays, I thought I would just have a little bit of a report. The tadpoles, they got moved out onto my back patio. And so they're in their aquarium, and I've been giving them some boiled lettuce. Doesn't that sound delicious? Boiled lettuce. And while I was waiting for my coffee today, I smelled something, and I kind of turned the boiled lettuce into kale chips or lettuce chips. And so they're not going to get that piece. The water evaporated. The burner was not on high, Marie, so it's all good. But the tadpoles, I noticed, still do not have legs. They're not showing legs, and I think it's been 2 weeks. I don't know. If there's no legs and they're leaving waste, they're pooping, but so they're eating something, but they just haven't developed their legs yet. So I guess I'm going to keep them another week. As long as they're pooping, they're eating. So I will check to see how they are doing. If they don't show any signs of growing any legs, then I guess I'll take them back down to the marsh and see if that will help maybe increase their diet. I've been giving them fish flakes, and they've been getting boiled lettuce, so we'll see. Hello, Jenny McIntyre Ritter. Hello, cousin. Good to see you and all of your little men. And so I'm just giving a little update. My scroll of notes here. Last week, you noticed I wasn't here on Friday. Pardon me. And Marie and I did a little big sit in the yard, in the property. And these are my notes. And it was kind of a chilly, cold morning. And I have to say, I was birding from bed. And I was hoping that Marie had forgotten that we were doing the big sit that day. And I had just gotten my coffee and was sitting there with binoculars in the bed looking out the back window and saw a rose-breasted grosbeak, and it was sitting in the top of a tree singing, and that was 6:50 a.m. And then listening to the chorus of birds. The crows always seem to come next, and then the cardinals and robins. And so I started taking notes, and then I heard voices outside and looked out and realized Marie was sitting out there. And so she had not forgotten. And even though it was kind of chilly and wet, I threw my clothes on, grabbed my binoculars and my notes, and went out to join her in the back. And I think it was around 7:30, 7:40, it started raining, and we sat kind of chilled under the overhang on my patio. And I said, you know, do you want breakfast? How about pancakes? So I came in and made some blueberry pancakes. And so that was our morning break. We figured we weren't going to be seeing or hearing anything. And so we had a lovely breakfast and went back out right afterwards. So it was a fun day. These are the notes. There's, you know, I tried to keep track of what the weather was doing. It changed and changed and changed with clouds and the temperature, and got to hear a ruffed grouse drumming. So that was really cool. Anytime we hear grouse drumming is always fun and exciting. There were butterflies waking up. The afternoon, Marie and I moved down to the dock, so we had to don our little sloshers, our boots, and mine just happened to be leopard print rubber boots, and I like to think of them as leopard frog. And so went down there and sat, and it was windy. And I think the highlight of being down there just before Marie got there were a couple of water snakes, and I posted videos of the water snakes, and they were coming out. The sun was hitting the boardwalk, and so they were coming out to go hunting. So that was cool to see. The two of them were climbing through the cattails and the leather leaf down at the edge of the bog. And it got so windy that I think it was about 3:30, 4 o'clock, we decided, okay, we've had enough. And so I think our big total for the day was 40 birds, and which was pretty good. And we've had more birds coming into the property 2 days ago, yesterday, 2 days ago. Indigo bunting, beautiful blue. It looks just so artificial blue. So that's always a good time. But yeah, we had 40 birds, and I think the highlight of that big sit was the red-shouldered hawk. After we called it quits at the dock, I came back to my yard, and there going through the yard was a big red-shouldered hawk, and it came swooping down, and the blue jays were yammering at it, and they were very upset, and they were mobbing it. And so that red-shouldered hawk stayed in the yard for a little bit. I tried to get my camera, and by the time I came back, it was gone. Then the other little joy that day was the Nashville Warbler. I had no idea what it was. I knew that it was a teeny tiny bird, and it sat in my water garden, and it came down to take a bath, and they're just so petite, and that big eye, the warblers just seem to have these big innocent looking eyes, like, love me, protect me, take care of me. And so this little warbler came down into my little tub water garden, and just started taking a bath, just as relaxed as can be. And it was about 4:30 in the afternoon, and that's usually when I get birds coming in the end of the day. And so this little warbler, he was splashing and taking a lovely little bath, and then he flew up to a branch after I had messaged Lisa and said, there's a little yellow thing, it's a little tiny yellow bird, what is it? And so by the time Marie got here, of course, it was gone. And I described it to her, and she said it was a Nashville Warbler. So that was cool. It was so tiny in comparison to the goldfinch, and the goldfinch just looked like a big cow compared to it. And the two of them were sitting on a branch, and I thought, oh, don't scare it away, goldfinch. And the goldfinch sat there looking at this tiny warbler who, like, I just took a bath and I'm just going to sit here and fluff out my feathers and then be on my way. And I just was just shocked to see the size difference between the two. So that was a lot of fun just to see that, the excitement in the news in the woods. And of course, it's always exciting for us bear girls because we are nature artists. And so anytime you get to see that stuff and experience it, it's always fun. And the coyote has been running around the backyard lately, and then I noticed after our big sit the smell of fox. And I thought, oh, that could be why the coyote has been yammering, is she could have found the foxes, and the two don't get along. So I had smelled the fox front and back of the studios, and the one morning I woke up with a start. It was not the coyote who I'd been recording, because I'd hop up at 2 a.m, record the coyote singing, but this was a much sharper single yelping call, so I believe it was the fox that was out in the backyard. And of course, the next morning I smelled fox out there, so that's really cool. My cardinal has still been headbanging, and at the back window where the bathroom is, and Marie came over with this nifty tape, and it's XP care to scare birds away from the window. And we had hung it up. I didn't hear anything for a while, and I thought, oh, good, because the tape got caught. And it's like, okay, it's gone. Well, no, it came back. So if you can get some shiny, or, cut apart a Mylar party balloon or something, you can recycle it and take that shiny material and just put a little bit of duct tape it to the window until the birds are done defending their territories. Or you can get a box of the tape. The scare tape. So that is the hodgepodge of news. How's everybody doing? What's going on in your neck of the woods? I'm just giving you some time as I take a sip of my coffee here. Today I am talking about wild collecting and cabinets of curiosities. And cabinets of curiosities are just that. It's a little cabinet or a box that holds things that people collect. And I don't know about you, but when you go somewhere and you find a cool rock, you stick it in your pocket. Or if you find animal scat, you might stick it in a bottle, but not predator scat. No, like deer, rabbit, something like that. I only do that for school programs, of course. Or if you find, like what we had done before, an owl pellet, which Marie found one yesterday, I think it was, out on the dock. Oh, I got an itchy nose. Those gnats have been biting. And so, what to do with all of those things that you find? And we've got a holiday weekend coming up. Hey, I am looking forward to seeing your video of Thunder Bay, Jamie Taylor. I want to see that and hear your music. One talented guy. So, what to do with your natural wonders? And we're talking shells, we're talking funky pieces of wood that you find, all kinds of things that can fit in your hand and your pocket. And what do you do with it? And like I said, the cabinets of curiosities have always kind of, I would have to say, inspired my artwork. Make sure I'm spelling it right as I'm talking. And I have, even though I paint and draw and all that, and I love writing and poetry, I've always used that look of taking my images and words and putting natural things into boxes. And it's a way of preserving them. And this is a little bit dusty, a little bit grungy. It's been sitting in my bathroom up on the windowsill. But this is actually part of the poem from the Legend of the Sleeping Bear that I did. And you can see little rocks down in the corner and some handmade paper, the trees, cheesecloth. I always have to throw that in for texture. And so it's a lot like a collection of items. So I collect images, I collect actual biofacts, natural artifacts that are once living. And I wanted to make my art reflect that, the items of wonder that help illustrate a piece. And so this, the sleeping bear of the shining big sea water, this was just something I threw together. I had the images and printed them off, and then used handmade paper and used deckled scissors and cut out shapes of trees, and then drew some stones. They were again on the computer, and put those in the piece, and then made paper and painted some canvas and added the text from my poem. So I made it look like a cabinet of curiosities. And cabinets of curiosities have been around for thousands of years. And here's another art piece that I did. This one's my favorite. And this was actually in Goodrich, Jamie, if you remember. I can't remember the road. On the way to Grand Blanc, there was that maple. And I was just enamored with that maple and had drawn the picture several times. And Danielle Duke owns the original of this piece. And so I have fern in there and a real acorn and my poem. And again, having it appear as a cabinet of curiosities, adding natural items, ephemera, and biofacts to the piece. My goodness. I have used that kind of method even with my sleeping bear painting that's up in Empire, my Porcupine Mountains piece that's up, the originals up in Calumet. And so it's taking those items and putting them in a box or a frame or some type of container to hold them and organize them. Like I was saying, the Cabinet of Curiosities has been around for over 2,000 years. And it was wealthy kings who sent explorers off into other worlds and bring back amazing plants and animals that weren't in the area, and brought them back, and they received lots of money for those things. And so it was kind of like our first museums. These wealthy people had them in cabinets, which was actually a large room. And so they collected, hello, Lynn. They collected all of these natural items, sometimes living animals, and kept them in this room. And it was kind of like I said, one of the first museums. And so it was a way to study science, and science was revered. And by getting these items in, it just kind of expanded the world, and it caused people to go exploring. And some of the things were artificial, and they were not true. And so when people started looking for these unusual things, when kings and people would send them out to look, and they'd get money for them, they ended up coming back with very strange and unusual items like the fur-bearing trout. And so that kind of ended the whole idea of looking for unusual species. I believe even narwhals, the horns on the narwhal, people had thought belonged to unicorns, and so that got explorers out looking. So, there is no fur-bearing trout, but as people came to the New World, they thought, wow, these strange and unusual animals over here. Somebody's going to pay a pretty penny for this, because this is certainly, just amazing. And if you've ever watched Brotherhood of the Wolves, I think it was in their Brotherhood of the Wolves that they had somebody come back with talking about the fur-bearing trout or the jackalope. So fun things like that. But what we're talking about today is creating your own Cabinet of Curiosities. And as I said, I collect and collect. Oh dear. There it goes. All kinds of things. And you can start off with a bag, a Ziploc bag. Oh my goodness. I thought this backing was on here better. But what I will show you, the back came off of this, my Cabinet of Curiosities, and this is when we were in North Dakota, and there's sage in there, sagebrush, and some paper that was from a flyer, and the red rock, which is called red rock. And so I had these items. This has been sitting on my bathroom shelf, and I guess I'm going to have to fix it now and actually take care of this Cabinet of Curiosities. But I guess now that I can open it, this was at the Teddy Roosevelt National Park, and I've got a postcard that some material that I thought would look good with the colors of the rock, and put it in there, and there is a hunk of the red rock. And it's beautiful with the layers you can see. And it reminds me of that area. So, and then the plant materials that are dried, and putting them in a frame like this. And Lisa made this frame, just like the one that had the sleeping bear in it. Oh goodness. And I will take a Ziploc baggie, or if I have snacks, if I'm out and about and find shells or rocks or anything interesting, I start collecting them. We usually put them in our socks. There's a good sized whelk in there. I have no idea what's inside the whelk. It's wrapped up. I have not opened this in a long time, and I do need to organize these. This is from 2014. Wow. It's kind of like a little bagged lunch. It's surprising. South Carolina, Hilton Head Island. Some goodies in there. And then when I'm on the trip, I try to take little items, ephemera, labels, brochures, anything like that of the area, and fold it up and stick it in the bag and use a Sharpie and label it. This is kind of the quick and easy way when you are, hello Matt, when you are out and about, to gather your items and stick them in a bag and label it, because you're going to forget, like I did when I got back home. Let's see what I have here. I went around today, collected. I have so many biofacts. Never know what's going to happen, what I'm going to do with them. This is from Copper Harbor, and I've got some rocks in here. Looks like a bit of fur, probably coyote, maybe wolf, when we were out on the trail, and this is 2014. Oh, what do we have here in this? you can use boxes like this is from Christmas cards. And so it's got a fun little magnetic and ribbon that you can open it. And so in here, this is Isle Royal 2014, and some bark that I found on the ground and glued together, some rocks and little pieces that I brought back with me from Isle Royal. You have to make sure that you check rules and regulations with national parks. Even though I brought some of this stuff back, I don't think you're allowed to bring anything, especially greenstone, because that's a protected state gem. But just a few little reminders, and that's one of the things with collecting you have to remember is that with rocks or with bird feathers, I saw a yellow shafted flicker feather, you have to look for local laws. The flicker, I think, was Teddy Roosevelt Park. And so check laws. I know that there are things with migratory birds, and even if you find a feather on the ground, you're not supposed to pick it up. All of that good stuff. You're not supposed to keep it, but you know, yeah. How do we educate kids if they don't touch and feel? Because kids learn through their hands. And so even if I find a feather here or there, I'm going to put it in, and the actual ruling on that is if you find a feather, take it in and draw it and then return it to the wild and where you found it. And I know it's hard to resist, and people going to state and national parks, again, there are rules, and it's if you get caught with a protected raptor feather, it's like $500 per feather, like 5,000, I don't know, it's a lot. I remember this stuff working at the nature center. You have to have permits, but again, I feel like if we want kids to get out and be stewards, and we want them to be interested what's in the yard, I guess have them look at it and draw it. I don't see anything wrong with taping it into a book or into a little cabinet. That's what we've been doing for a long time. They have these laws to discourage people from going out and shooting the birds and collecting the birds. So that's that. I have to say that for feathers. Check your rocks, especially again parks, because they are protected, and I know people go to the shores and they are looking for Petoskey stones, and the thing is, if everybody goes out and gathers a stone, then there's not going to be anything left for other people to see. But there is that joy in finding that awesome rock, especially a Petoskey in Michigan. That's kind of cool. And I've collected Petoskey's for a long time, and I guess you don't have to be in a park to find them, and you can be outside of a park and find them. But again, I think they're trying to discourage people from harvesting all the Petoskey's. So check your rules on that. We want to protect our natural resources. So, what kind of box to use? This, I think, was postcards. Watercolor paper postcard box, which made a perfect box for Cabinet of Curiosities. And this is a palmetto bug. This is from Florida, and this bug I brought back, and stuck in the box. You know what a palmetto bug. Be sure that's what that one is. Interesting little critters. Let's see. Oh, this is a neat box. If you can find a tin can, it would make a fun little cabinet for your collections. And I had some herbs in here that I had gotten at a powwow, and I noticed that they had a lovely little map. They drew where they collected and what the plants were, and I thought that's really neat. So maybe drawing a little pencil drawing of your area and sticking it in your Cabinet of Curiosities would be a cool idea. And that way it brings back that memory of what you saw. Here's another box, a can, sticky notes. This Story World has a little pull-out. These kinds of things you can alter and make into a cabinet. Here's a neat box if you go out checking for antiques, if there are antique stores open, I don't know. But this, this is a fun box, and I love to look at this. And I have had pencils in here and some charcoal and art materials, and so you can see how stained the box is and how fun. I had lined it with some leather pieces, and I looked at this and thought, oh, this is going to be a home for some natural items. And if you have little notebooks that has you know, handmade paper, that would make nice little backings that you could put in so you could label your items. And that's half the fun, is checking to see what you got when you get home, to see what your items are. Oh, I tell you, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I have a lot of collections, and because when I'm working on a project or working on an area, I want to make sure I know the area. So this was actually 2015 in Gwinn, Michigan. Oh, there's my Upper Peninsula. Get my hand. There we go. Thumb area, Keweenaw, and Gwinn is right here. So it's not too far from Marquette, about an hour. And I was doing an artist in residence, and I did a map of the area, just like that little map that came with the bag of herbs and tobacco. I wanted to go in and have a certain day and put in all the things that I saw while I was doing this artisan residency, all the animals, the behavior, what was happening, and it's just, you know, taking all of that moment and all of those moments and putting it on a piece of paper so I would remember it, all the things that went on. And I had collected, and again, this is 5 years ago, and if you can see right here are some British soldier lichens, and they're still red, still cool. I have some rocks with moss that are over 20 years old and still green. It's amazing. I have lots of boxes of biofacts, like Cabinets of Curiosities, that I take into schools to show kids and have them draw and look at the wonderful things out there. I've got some galls from pine trees. I've got big tooth aspen leaves in here, little branches, fun, unusual shapes of wood, and a couple of feathers. And so I wrote the date. You can make a nature jar. This was, I think, like a Costco bucket of pretzels, something like that, that I cleaned out and then put my items in and dated it and said where it was. And I think what I'm going to do is stick the map in there, or find a box to put all of this in so I can make that collection. Fun stuff. Okay, Now, how can you preserve your collection? And I just came across this awesome, amazing idea and saw it in a book. And the author makes unusual books, and I like that because I like to make unusual books. And it was preserving moments of her canning fruit for the season. And I thought, well, shoot, we can do this with our Cabinet of Curiosities. And so I was thinking about the life before quarantine. What happened? What were we doing back in February? And so I went back to find the items that I had. We had gone to, Lisa and Marie and I had gone to Florida. Marie was doing shows, and Lisa and I drove down there, getting out of the February snow in Michigan. It was February 10th when we went down to Florida, and we went to Ormond Beach, and we saw a huge live oak, the Fairchild oak, and we did all kinds of fun things, went birding. And so I wanted to just kind of show you what this book was like that this author had made just for poetry. And I thought, well, gosh, you know, this would be a perfect idea for making a cabinet or a jar of curiosities. And she made a little book that fit in. And I think she had a little cover that came around, wrapped around, and had fruit patterns on it and a ribbon so you can pull it out. And so that little book in a jar, I thought, oh, what a cool idea. I had this one shorter. I just washed out this jar. I just had a hot dog with relish. And so this little book would fit in that, and you would have to fit your little book. And I just stapled the pages, some paper, and fit it to it. And the author went on to have even a piece of material cover the top so it looked like preserved. So she was preserving the story. And I thought, this is kind of cool. I can preserve this moment. The one thing I was excited about, we were at Ormond Beach in Florida, was the sand. And so I thought, and I collect soil and sand wherever I go. I've got Marquette sand. It's kind of a purpley plum color. Hello, Kaya. And and so when we were in Ormond Beach, I was amazed at how sparkly and orange the sand was. It was like, I don't know if it was made of shells. It looked like it was ground. It was just beautiful. And so I had to collect some, put it in. I think I had just like a napkin and put it in there. And this is all before COVID came along. So that was Ormond Beach. And I thought, you know, I'm going to put the sand in there. And while we were there, I think these are limpets. Maybe they're not limpets. It's barnacles on this oyster shell. And so we found that, and a palm date, I believe it is, seed pod. I'm gonna stick that in there. I found a really cool moon shell. I think it's a moon snail. And this is the beauty of this is having the stuff, then you can look it up. A really interesting rock that had washed up. And then these little guys, I was so excited. We were at the beach while Marie and Lisa looking for hawks. I was on the beach looking for awesome little shells. And these are really cool. Can you guess the name? They're cat's paws. Isn't that cool? It's a cat paw mussel. It's a type of oyster, and they look like cat's paws. pretty neat. So I've got these, and I collected some of those because it might go into a piece of artwork. It might go into a book. So I can remember that and stick them in the jar. And I've got my fun little book that I can fit in here, or I made a different version that the author had made one that stood up in the jar. So it fit inside and stood upright. And this I made so it was kind of an accordion, which is one of my favorite books that you could just pull out. So, and I can say where everything came from and what's in here. So that's kind of a fun thing. And I'm going to close my jar, and you can label it. And I spent all morning trying to get a label off of a jar, and that didn't work. But I did, like I said, wash this relish jar. If you're having a picnic this weekend, save the jar. It's recycling. Make a little book. Have the kids make a book. I just stapled it and stapled some pages, made it into a star shape, and put it in there so they can put their little collections in there. Ingers. And so for the top of this jar, I chose something that was very watery, that looked like the ocean, and this just happened to be made by my mother. And so I knew that I had some of these lying around, that when she was in her sewing of jar topper era, she had made a bunch of these, and I thought this is a wonderful way to remember her. She made these toppers and then stamped and cut out little cards, Elizabeth and the little fawn. So this helps me remember my mother as well. But you can add a label of where it is if you don't want to mark the jar. This was a jelly jar. I think it was strawberry jelly, and so I liked that it had a handle and it's got enough room that you can see what's going on in there. That's kind of fun. So, how to organize them. You can use Sharpies to do your labeling. I like getting the different colors, so you can put on your labels what's in there, whether you have a little card or there on that or a sticker. Use some really fun colored Sharpies. Now, if you were here a few weeks ago watching, and this is kind of like we're going back into winter time here. Yuck. Gross. I was dissecting an owl pellet, barred owl pellet that we found out back, that Lisa found. And so I dissected the pellet, and this is the stuff that I found. I think that was like my first live stream. And so I thought, well, what I could do is put it inside the Petri, and I've got this awesome paper. I've got to kind of put my head back here with my grandma eyes. Got my grandma eyes going today. So gorgeous out there. Get out and plant. As I'm cutting this out, I have 5 days left of my YouTube contest. 5 days. Memorial Day is the cutoff. And I am hoping for 100 subscribers. So if you can run over and subscribe to my YouTube Book Arts with Lori Taylor, that would be awesome, because I have a super awesome summertime giveaway. Get me to 100 and somebody's going to win an awesome little book art summer camper. And I would love to see it go to a deserving home. It has a little light inside and little mice that enjoy the camper. It's fully decked out, and so it was a fun project, and I have a video on YouTube that highlights that, the summertime giveaway, the getaway giveaway. So if you can run over there and subscribe, you've got 5 days. If not, then the camper is going up for sale, probably in town. So there we go. Okay, I've got my background for my Petri. And so what we're going to do is look at the bones that I had collected. And yesterday Marie found some, and I think the one was a shrew. It was tiny enough. And this had lots of cool, oh, here we are. This had lots of cool skulls. I think I had, 5 skulls in this owl pellet alone. So you can go in, put your bones and things that you find, put them on some paper like I did, or like leather in the one box, and then you can glue them. What I need to do with these little guys is get the rest of the fur out of the pellet. And I just kind of got it out of the pellet that day, and they've still been sitting in the Petri dish. It's going to take some time to go through, but you can paint them white, and that will help preserve them, and they will show up a lot better on your paper. If you have any skulls, if you find any skulls, make sure they are dry. And you want them dry, and if it is not clean, you can boil them. Although I have found boiling skulls you've got to really watch, because it will kind of destroy them. They just kind of fall apart. So I tend to let nature take its course and find something and put skulls out, and let the animals, the ants, clean them out. And so anyway, when you're done with it, I'm going to give this skull a good brushing, and this looks like it is a mouse skull. So it is a rodent, and then I can paint it. You can still see the teeth, the tiny teeth. I don't know if it's going to focus. Well, maybe. And the molars. There we go. There. Get that nice and clean, and can paint it, and then use a little bit of tacky glue, just a little bit, and put it on your paper, and dip right in there. Ooh, more full than I thought. And I'm going to attach this to the paper, and I'll go through and clean the other little bones that I found. Sometimes there's too many of the little teeny tiny ones, and you can decide if you want that, if you want to have all those. So you can go through and find the skulls, and then attach them to your, clean them off and attach them to your background paper. And this is awesome paper that I got from the French paper company in Niles, Michigan. I love using it for my books and my book projects, and the colors they have are just amazing. Oh, how you doing, Kaya? You doing your homework? Where's everybody going this weekend? Anybody celebrating? Anybody going up north? Lots of fur there. Taking a special drive. I know the Ingers are up. I can hear those little girls over there. They are excited. Excited to be in the woods and outdoors. So, get a little bit. And just going to arrange the skulls so that they're all together. I just put up a new video on YouTube and made a nightlight, and it's called The Spirit of the Woods, and inspired by horn books. And horn books were just a sheet of wood, and they were used for in colonial times for their lessons, and would have the alphabet or some type of reading material on there, maybe a prayer, something that would help teach reading to young children. And so I did a project in collaboration with Lisa, and so she will be turning something large on her lathe. And this was a very small Petri, so it was very cool. You can get over and check that out when the weather's not so nice and see what we bear girls are doing. Now you can arrange your little bones that you have. That need to do? Nope. I put the skulls around the top here, and I've got some jaw bones. Hello, Carol Skog. Oh, good. I'm glad you got your homework done, Kaya. Is it nice out that you can go out to your playhouse and do things? Watch the field? I think this little jawbone is going to be turned so you can see the teeth. And I'm going to stick it right next to the other one. And this is all one pellet. Probably the barred owl that's in the back. There's another one right over here. Another jawbone. Lots of tiny leg bones and ribs and things. Oh, this is teeny tiny. I don't know. Look at that. That must be a shrew. It must be. I have to look at that one with my grandma eyes. I'm going to have to look with my readers and my magnifying glass. So I'm going to put that on the paper as well. And I've just got a little circle of all the things in here. There's shoulder blades. There's another lower jaw, a lower mandible. So if you find your bones and stones and you want to organize them, you can put them in a jar like I did with the other, kind of cool, the jar with the cat's paws shells, and you can put in a little booklet that you can make while you're visiting that area. Maybe thoughts or poetry or just a quote. The quote that I did for the video on the Spirit of the Woods was, I'm trying to remember. The creation of 1,000 forests is in one acorn, and that's Ralph Waldo Emerson. Hey, I remembered it. And another jawbone here. It's beautiful up here, Kaya. I wish you were here. I wish all my kids were here, actually. And picnic and have hot dogs and cook out sausages encrusted in herbs, Jamie. And the fire pit is waiting. So there's another jawbone. My goodness, this was one busy owl, let me say. You can make your collection very artistic. You can make it simple. You can add larger items, and we were out hiking the other day and saw 2 porcupines, and one had an unusually large abdomen, so I'm thinking that she has already given birth to some baby porcupets. And so we went back to see, and she's hanging in the area on the North Country Trail, so we imagine that she's got a den over there. So, I think, I don't know where I was going with that story. But, oh, I can't remember. Gotta have a sip of coffee. Just getting out and exploring, taking your notes, taking photographs, and recording what you're finding. Oh, I remember now. It's that grandma thing. What can I say? So we were out and saw those porcupines, and what brought us to their attention, brought them to our attention, was the boardwalk was covered with poplar branches with fresh leaves, and noticed that a porcupine had nipped off the branch. And you can usually find porcupines, and if you are walking along and find branches lying on the ground. So it can be usually hemlock they eat in the wintertime, but the poplar is nice and sweet and the leaves were coming out, so they're out eating the bark. And this one was eating for 3, maybe 4. And so she had plenty of these branches around. So I brought this back as one of my finds to remind me of that porcupine. And we went back and saw her again, and she's in the area still. So she must be nursing her young. If she hasn't had them already, she probably will be soon. And so by getting a large enough box to house your curiosities, your natural wonders, to help you remember. And hey, I did this very neatly. I'm very proud. Usually I get everything all over my fingers. But so we ended up with the 4 skulls. I thought there were more than that, but I guess not. And the jaw bones, and many little legs and ribs in here that are going to have to be cleaned. So I could take that wooden box and put this in there. I could do a Cabinet of Curiosities with the backyard. And certainly this was our backyard that Lisa found. And so you can do a Cabinet of Curiosities of backyard, or a favorite park that you like to go to, something you might see lying on the ground, and even artifacts, bottle caps, things like that that you might find, a washer, a bolt, something like that, a vacation spot. And you could make a cabinet, a box, cigar box. Cigar boxes were the very beginning. I remember I had a butterfly collection as a kid and would pin butterflies. And I think, Jamie, you did too. Living in Goodrich, we had butterflies, and that we would put and preserve in a little box or case. So you could do your cabinet, whether it is a box or, like I said, cigar, wooden, cardboard, plastic, anything like that. And it's kind of neat to design it and then label it. And so I have my owl pellet bone chart here. I'll go through and put a tiny label in the middle and put this in a case as a backyard cabinet. So I think I'm going to do that, the things that I find out back. So with that, I'm going to wish you, hello, Jeff Jennings. I know, I wish you were here, Jamie, to fly over the pond. Again, hello, Jeff Jennings. I'm glad you stopped by. I hope everybody gets out and has fun and is safe this weekend. I know I've seen a lot of people with masks. We went out to Big Rapids and I was very pleased to see that at the store, because we want this to be done and over and get back to living and visiting and seeing everybody. And I'm supposed to have knee surgery now. July 22nd. So I have to stay good and healthy until then. And until then, I've got lots of things to stay busy. I always do. Lots of stories to write and illustrate, and book projects that I'm working on. And working with my 3D pen, Kaya. Oh my goodness. Maybe Friday I will do that. So until then, I hope you are all well and enjoy your holiday weekend. If you find some goodies, label them in a bag, take them back home, and you can start planning your Cabinet of Curiosities. Make sure you jump over and subscribe at Book Arts with Lori Taylor, because 5 days for the contest, and it will end after Memorial Day. And I need 100, so get me to a 100 and you might win the super cool camper book art. So thank you for watching as usual. I think I covered it all. I hope you have fun. Stay creative, get those kids out and collecting and seeing what the world is all about. And stay safe, everybody, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.